So you can see my HerdMASTER screen. I'm sure everyone should see that now. Just some background information for those of you that's not familiar with HerdMASTER. It's for large stock as well as small stock, stud as well as commercial. It is being used in 30 countries. It's an international program. Jock is our support in Namibia, Mario Befa in Zimbabwe, and then I am responsible for the whole of Southern Africa. HerdMASTER can be loaded onto any Windows-based program, so you do need Windows, preferably not older than Windows 7. Windows 10, we have had some problems with. Some clients just can't use Windows 10 on their computer, so they then just revert back to Windows 8. Why should you use HerdMASTER? If you have a herd of more than 50 animals, usually Excel just becomes too big of a mess, so then people switch over to a management program. All your animals are on one database. You would see active as well as all your inactive animals. Data that can be recorded would be weights, traits, treatments, matings, spread tests. You can also add your photos, any important documents that you want to load onto a specific animal. There's no maximum amount of animals that you can load. Worksheets and filters are functions that that's used very, very often, whereby you in a worksheet, you would group your animals together that you work with, or a filter, you would put in criteria that the system would then filter the animals for you. We also use the crush side recording utility, whereby you can use your stick reader and your scale. You would connect that with Bluetooth to your computer, and at the crush you would sit with your computer, scan the electronic ID, that will bring up your animal in HerdMASTER. If you have an electronic scale, you can then record the weight as well and any other traits. If you don't have a scale, you would then just type in the weight manually. The other option is if you don't want to sit with your computer at the crush, most of these devices can export files in Excel or CSV. So you then just use that file and import it into HerdMASTER, so you don't have to retype everything. HerdMASTER is also a pre-planned program, so it's 100% compatible with a pre-planned system, even though it is compatible with other genetic evaluation services. Then we try and do training normally across Southern Africa, depending on requests we get, but with the COVID-19, all our training has been cancelled. Today, I'm not going to do a full training course. It's an hour and a half, it's just too little. I'm just going to go through basics and basic functions in HerdMASTER so you can see what the program is about. I'm going to start off with, this would be your basic animal list screen. You would see on your left, there's a little blue block. If you tick that block, you can customize these columns that you see on your animal list screen. So what you don't want to see, you just untick. If you go to your right, you'll see there's a whole bunch of columns. Each and every column can also be sorted. So let's take date of birth. Between date of birth and this little funnel, you don't see anything, but if you click on that, it's going to sort it, ascending or descending. You can do that for every column where you see these options. You can also drag columns. Let's say you want to see your national ID next to your date of birth. You just drag it and you place it there. On your animal list, if you double click, or on the bottom, click on details, it will open a specific animal. On this screen that you see now is just information related to this animal. In the middle row tabs, if you click on, let's say, weights, all the weights that would have been recorded for this animal, you would see there. Just want to find you an animal that's got some weights. Let's take that one. There you'll see all the weights recorded for this animal. It will also show you when this animal was last weighed, as well as some other information. Traits would also be recorded. On this tab here, you would see we have a condition score and a carving is recorded, correct tests, if any, matings, progeny. So this animal has one calf, and then pedigree. So if you click on this animal, if there was a mother and a father for this animal, you would be able to trace it back. That's why it's important when you add animals to say who the mother and the father is, so that on this screen, you are able to trace down the pedigree, to trace the pedigree. I'm just going to close, yeah. In HerdMaster, when you initially start, you would have to just make sure your setup is correct, which is done under Setup Site Options. There is a manual that shows you exactly what all these boxes are for. I'm not going to go through all of them. This setup is an initial setup that you'd only do once. You won't do that again unless something changes. So I'm just going to close this one. Then when you initially set up your database, it's going to prompt you to enter a property. You can enter main properties, how many ever you need, as well as various camps on those main properties. You can add them all when you create your database, but you can also add them afterwards. So what you would do then is go to Setup, Properties. Properties is the main farms, sites would be your camps. So these are all my main farms. You would add another main farm on here, and then you can also add your locations. If, for instance, you have a main farm that's already created, but now you need to set up more camps on that one, you can just go sites, and then you can just choose the main farm and then add locations from there. In your animal list, you will see at the bottom, there's an option that says show off site. It's going to see one main property as your default. You can choose which one that would be. But if you want to see all your animals, if they are on various main properties, you would have to click show off site, because it's seeing the animals that's not on the default location as off site. So that one is important. If you can't find an animal, just click show off site. You would also see at the bottom, here's an option that says show inactive. If I untick it, it's going to make the screen less. Now it's 298. If I tick it again, it's 1994. So when you have the option to make animals inactive, don't delete them, because if you can't delete an animal if it's linked to another animal. Let's say the animal is the mother to one of the calves. If you're trying to delete that mother, it won't let you delete it. You first need to take off the linkage to the calf. So I don't suggest taking off animals unless it's a totally wrong animal that you added and it's not supposed to be there. You can only search on your active database or on your inactive database if you want to see all of your animals. You can also, on this screen, search per tag. I'm just going to type in, let's find what I can use. So you'll see as I'm typing, it's searching here on the animal tag column. So if you're looking for a specific animal and you don't want to go through your animal list if you have thousands, that's the easiest way. You can also search on all these options. You can also use society ID. It's another one that's used quite often because with some of the breeds, you would see, let's take this tag. No, maybe that's not a good example. Let's try this one. Some of the societies zero pad their tag numbers. So your animal tag would not have a 0 in, but your society tag would look like that. So you have your herd ident, the year the animal was born, and then the animal's number. You can change the society ID and the tattoo to that number. You can do your animal tag as well, but then in your numerically in your animal lists, it sorts terribly because it puts 11 under 1 and not 2. So the societies that want the zeros in, or sorry, the zeros out, they just put it in their animal tag, they just add the zeros so that it sorts properly. I know some of the societies use the zeros in any way, so all your tags would be the same. You'll see I'm ticking on animal tag now, and I'm typing, you can't just change an animal tag. You need to retag an animal. So if you've entered an animal and you've used the wrong tag, you would need to retag that animal. Just want to clear these screens and just leave that on animal tag. I'm going to show you a worksheet and a filter. Those worksheets are usually used for a group of cows that's grouped together. From your animal list, you can either keep shift in and scroll down. If they're random, you keep control in, and then you can select them. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see there's an option that says worksheet. You can then either add it to an existing worksheet, or you can enter a new name. I'm just going. It's going to ask, are you sure you want to do it? You can say yes. There's no maximum number of worksheets that an animal can be on. You'll then see if I click here on worksheet, there's the demo one, and it's only giving me those animals. This helps a lot if you have a whole lot of animals. When you enter weights, traits, because you need to go and find those animals, and then to find them numerically takes very long. I'm just going to create a filter so you can see how a filter is used. I'm going to add, and I'm going to give it a name. Now I need to enter criteria that I want my filter to search on. So I'm going to say, give me animals with a birth year equal to 1993. You can make it smaller groups, not necessarily years. You would see you have greater than, equal than signs here. So if you search for something, you can test your filter and it's not giving you information and you know it's supposed to be there. Just check. It could be that you've just chosen one of these and you've chosen the wrong one, then just switch them around. I'm going to add another line and I'm going to say, let's make it the sex code of female. Let's test the filter. Now it's giving me the animals that it's found that meets this specific criteria. If you take inactive off at the bottom, I've got nothing. So all of those animals are inactive. I'm going to show you where you would use a worksheet and a filter. Just want to clear these screens. If you have a worksheet or a filter open in this screen and you go to one of the other screens, it's going to only find those animals. So you just need to make sure that that is not selected. So in HerdMaster, if we want to enter information, it's going to be under data entry. The one that you would use the most would be weights, trait spread tests, as well as matings. I'm just going to do weights. In HerdMaster, you first do the right-hand side before you move your animals across. Observation code, I'm going to say, let's say this is weaning weights. It's going to ask you for a performance group. You'll see if you forget to add, let's say, a performance group. I'm just going to move a few animals across. Then I realized I made a mistake. I need to add performance groups. This is blank. If you change it, then it's not going to change there. You're going to have to change them one by one there, which is fine if it's 5 to 10 animals, but if it's 20 animals, it just gets too much. So what you can do then, at the bottom of the screen, it says delete all. You're not deleting the animal of your database. It's just off this screen. So first enter this side. Recorded date, important. You might enter the data today, but you recorded the weight last week already. So make sure that you're working on the correct date. I'm just going to say 1st of May. You can then also record the dam's weight and her condition score if you're doing weaning weights. I'm going to tick those boxes, and it's also asking for a performance group for the dam. Let's use one of my previous worksheets. Let's use that one. At the bottom, I'm saying select all, using the arrow to move them across. You can then type in weaning weights. I just want to type in one weight, and let's say, now it's giving me an error on that weight. It's showing that it's outside the valid weaning weights. In HerdMaster, all the breeds have default setup in the background. So it knows normally a weaning weight is between 150 and 350. If something happens and the weight is outside of those ranges, it can be adjusted in your setup to accept that weight. Just going to click OK. We'll accept it. Now, if you want to put in any notes, you can. You can also then add the dam's weights. Just typing in weights as a demo, as well as her condition score. Same. At the bottom, you need to click process. If you just close the screen and you go back to the screen and this information is still there, you know that you never processed this information. So you then need to process. Are you sure you want to do it? You would say yes. It's then going to give you a report. Those were successful. Here it's giving me a list of warnings. What you would then do is go through that list of warnings, double check what the problem is, correct that so that you're able to send that to the society. I just want to show you where it is. This are the animals that it's complaining about now, but I'm going to close the screen. I just want to show you where those weights are. So you can either go and check on the animal itself, or in HerdMaster, if you want to check what you've done, you would go to View Edit. Weights, and there you would see weights that's been added. Off of this screen, you can also sort them according to tag, weight, date, weight, performance groups, notes as well if you use notes, observation codes, and you can also put them in a worksheet from this screen if you don't have a worksheet for them. Top right, worksheet. Let's say you've used for these animals, you've used the wrong observation code. You would select them, and on your right-hand side, you can do a bulk change on observation code, so you don't have to go and do them one by one. I'm just going to say yes, I don't want to do that now. Sorry, I forgot to show you would also be able to see traits, movements if you've moved your animals' locations, procedures, preg tests, and matings. You would also be able to see from this screen. When you enter animal weights, and you then go and open your animal in your animal details screen, and you click on the weights tab, and it says to you, failed to load animal weights. Don't go and re-enter the weight. That is a comma and a full stop discrepancy in your program. HerdMaster uses computer settings. So your computer is probably set up to a comma and the HerdMaster sees a full stop. So if you go to view edit, you'll be able to see that weight and you can retype that weight so that it accepts it. But if it's a whole bunch of animals, it just takes too long to retype everything. You can let me know, then there's a short script that I can run on your computer just to fix that problem. And then we just need to double check your computer settings. I know sometimes when Windows doesn't update, it changes it from a full stop to a comma without you realizing it. So don't enter the weights again. If you try and do that, it's going to give you a warning to say, but you have recorded this weight on this date for this animal. Are you sure you want to do it? And you say yes and yes and yes because you can't see that weight. In view edit, you will be able to see that weight. And then you can just let me know, then we can just fix that for you. Let me show you a mating. You would go data entry, matings. What's important in HerdMaster is with matings, there's a days to calving fate option. And then in HerdMaster, there's a normal fate option, which would be your cancellations, animals that's sold or died or stolen or whatever the case may be. The days to calving fate and the normal fate are two different fates. Days to calving you need to do so that if there was a successful mating, but there's no calf, why is there no calf? So that you can keep track of animals that's not producing. I am just going to work on a natural mating. You would see there's another option that says AI with sync, with observed heat, and then embryo transfers. For embryos, you would need to go and add that embryo. If you are using embryos, you would need to add the biological mother to say that you've used her embryos as well as the recipient. If the recipient is a totally another breed or commercial animal, that's fine. You would just need to have to add her in HerdMaster to be able to say that this embryo was implanted into that animal. Otherwise, you can't. Natural mating. So if you have a group of cows together and you've put in a bull, you would put those animals in a worksheet. Let's find that worksheet. I'm going to record a mating. So instead of going into each and every animal and recording a mating for every single animal with the same bull, I'm just going to use the worksheet and use them all together. So first I would need to do the right-hand side. I'm going to say it's natural. I'm going to find a sire. Let's take that one. If the animal's not on here, you can say add new and quickly go and add him. Date in. I know they usually work on 3 months. Let's do that, and then performance group. So my right-hand side is filled in. Select all, move them across. If you want to, you can add comments and then process. Are you sure you want to? Yes. No warnings, so this was all successful. And you would see I've processed now, the screen is blank. So that has gone through. Now that we've done a mating, we must do a preg test. Preg tests, data entry, it's something we want to add, preg test. Let's do the right-hand side again. Test results, let's say they're all positive. Who tested? You would find these options in contacts. So you can add all the contacts, vets, people that you buy feed from, you can add in your contacts, and then they're able to select, yeah, I'm just going to say, I tested it. Wet and dry, did she have a calf with her at that time? I'm going to say yes. Weeks pregnant, unfortunately, it's going to only work on one set of how many weeks these animals are pregnant. I'll show you now. So if I select them all on the left, I'm using the same worksheet. Okay, it doesn't want me to use that worksheet. It's saying that it's all male. Let me just take another one. Okay, sorry, I see that it did use some of the animals. I'm just going to keep on that one. On here, you'll see all of them's 8 weeks. So if something happens and let's say that animal's only 7 weeks, you can go down the list and change them. If one of them was actually negative, but you don't want to do it as a separate process, and you know it's only one animal, so you're going to do it like this and then just make her negative. So you can then just say negative and she's on 0. Then I'm going to say process. Are you sure you want to add it? Yes. So it skipped this animal because I've already recorded a preg test for her. All the others were successful. Now, after you've done a preg test, you would need to start adding animals when the calves are born. So to add animals, you would either use this option at the top or at the bottom. You can say animal or calf. At the top, it says the same. You can do bulk adding, but then your tags would need to follow. I'm just going to do a normal add a calf, and then I will show you a normal add animal as well. Let me just find one of those animals that has a mating. So I'm finding my worksheet. Take note of the calving date. I've opened this animal and it's showing that there's 2 matings for her. One was with a multi-sire. Multi-sires you can create. I know most of the societies usually give a code for multi-sires. That you would just have to check with your society if you can create the code or if they will send you one. Let's use the top one. If that mating is not here and you want to record it without a mating, you can say record without mating. If you don't see the mating here, you can add new. Let's say you forgot to do it, or I'm going to say choose selected mating. Then you can fill in the bottom half. Calving is, I'm going to say is 1. Then we need to enter birth weight, the dam's weight. Birthing status is something that's old, that's not being used anymore. They are writing that out of the program. The same with underscore. And number in birth, if it was twins, you would do that here. So you would say it's 2 animals. Then automatically, if you've added the 1, it would add the next animal. I'm just going to leave it at 1. Performance group, I'm going to say 1. Rearing status is also not used anymore. If you have any notes that you want to keep record of, you would do that here, and then you just say continue. You would see that it automatically gave me an animal tag. It will always remember the previous tag you've used. This is important when the new year starts because it's going to remember this one is 2019. So when you switch over to 2020 or next year, you would have to manually just update this tag and say, no, we are in 2020 and it's animal 001. But I'm just going to leave it with a 19. If your setup is correct, it's going to give you your society ID and your suffix automatically. Suffix you can also use to enter a name of an animal. If all of your animals have names, you can add that here. Sex, I'm going to say female. Date of birth, birth year, it's automatic. Dam and sire is automatic because you're entering it off of a mating. Owner breeder would be you, that's the same. That we're going to leave for now. You'll see it says current location. That would be your default one. If you don't want it on the default one, you need to manually change it. On this screen, you're only going to enter what you use. I'm not going to go through all of the options. And then also from here, you can enter that animal on a worksheet. So if you know you're adding a whole new bunch of calves, you can say, I want to put all of these calves onto a new worksheet. And you would say, add new, give it a name and say, add new. With the next calves that you're adding, you can just go and say, okay, put all these calves in one worksheet, and you don't have to go and create it off your animal list, but I'm not putting it on any worksheets now. I am just going to, you can say save and finish or next animal. So I'm just going to say save and finish. I just want to remember. Now it's asking, do I want to file all the other matings I have on this dam? I'm going to say yes. Now you go and search that animal, but it's not showing. You first need to click on refresh. If you enter new data in HerdMaster, click on refresh. Otherwise, you're going to enter a whole bunch of data and it's you're going to look for those animals, but you can't find them. Just hit refresh. Let's see if it finds it now. I can see it, but I just want to type it in. There is that animal. Just want to take off worksheet 2. Okay, so now we've added a mating, a preg test, a calf. Now you've bought a whole bunch of animals and you still need to add those animals. So that you're only going to enter a normal animal. If you enter animals and you want to say who the mother and the father was, you're going to have to add the mother and the father before you add the calf. So just adding an animal is animals, add animal. It's going to remember your previous tag. You'll fill in the information that's known to you. Let's say we don't know who the mother and the father is of this animal or dam and sire. I'm not going to add any other information. I'm just going to say save and finish. My HerdMaster is set up to say whenever I add a new animal, it must prompt for a weight. So you might not get the screen. It depends on your setup. Mine wants a weight. I'm just going to enter a weight. Must put in an observation code, especially if you send data to the society. If you don't send an observation code, then they are not going to know what code to use in HerdMaster. You can also put in a note and then add the weight and refresh so that it finds that last animal that we've just added. We can go and find it. 3. There's that animal. Okay, now let's say we need to send new calves to the society. I'm just going to work on old animals now. I don't want to add a whole bunch of animals. It's just going to take time. So sending information to the society, that is if you're a stud breeder. If you're commercial and you don't send any information, that is fine. For small stock and the large stock, that's with stud book, and then the other breeds for breed plan. So you would go reports, society. This would be for breed plan. You would go registrations. You would find your new animals. I'm just going to select a worksheet so that I don't have to use the whole database. Select the animals, move them to the right, and I say finish. So this replaces your Excel sheet as well with sending new information to the society. It's giving me warnings. I'm just going to close that. This information needs to go to the society. But the society doesn't see it as this. They get a data file and they don't only see this, they see other information as well that is in the background. You would then send it to the society either using the envelope or the globe. The people that use the envelope that get an error that says MAPI error, it's M-A-P-I. You would use the globe to send the details to the society. That is a Windows problem. So our programmers have added this globe so that you can send information to the society without using the envelope. I'm just going to close. Sending information to Studbook, you can also do from here. It's just a different process. You would use Logics reports and you would go birth notifications, find your animals, and you would say finish. So theirs looks like this. I know their animal IDs are also very sensitive. It needs to be 10 characters. If with your herd ident and your sequence following number, it isn't 10 characters, you need to fill that up with spaces. But that is something we can look at in the setup if needed. I'm just going to close here. Then also weaning weights. You need to send, with registrations, the birth weight goes automatically. So weaning weight you need to do separately. When you do weaning weights, you also enter the dams weight. But that you send to the society in a different report. You don't send weaning weights and the mothers goes automatically. You need to send them separately. That you would go to reports, replan reports, weights and traits. I'm going to say observation code. So depending on what you're sending, if you're sending yearling, you use W4 or 600 days W6. I'm just going to say weaning. Now it's asking for a date range. I'm just going to do that and see if it gives me any weights. Traits, you can select yeah, or you would select them here on the drop-down screen, but traits needs to be mapped. So that's a separate action, but that you also do once and then you don't have to do it again. The difference is you can find hip height here on this screen as well, but you would see hip height is there too. Those two options, the one gives it as centimeters and the one gives it as millimeters, depending on what the society needs. Let's take, where did I have, let's see if I have weights on here, taking that worksheet. Now it's giving me weights for these animals, sent to the society. For logics, you would go reports, logics, weaning weights. Their screen looks like this. It wants a flock number. I'm just putting in a 1 there. It's also asking for a date. Environmental code would be natural. Their codes are different. So I'm not going to run this report now because I'm not using W1 codes. I'm using W2. I'm using pre-plan codes because this is a Wagyu demo database. So it's not going to find any animals with a W1 with these codes in. So I'm just going to cancel, but you would then just say next and then send that report to the society. I'm just going to say yes. Then traits. Then let me show you a yard sheet. A yard sheet is something you can create and then print and give it to whoever is going to work with the animals in the field to show them what information you need. So it's reports, other yard sheet. I'm going to add a new template. I'm going to give it a name. Now from this list, I can say what I want to see. I want to see the animal tag. I want to see sex, date of birth, the mother. Let's say I can't find on these options, then I can enter it manually at the bottom. So you can have 10 columns in total between those top options and the bottom options. I'm going to say process. Go and find the animals that you want on that yard sheet. I'm going to use those. Then it creates you this report, and this you can then print or either save. They can fill in the details here, and whoever needs to enter the data can then just work off of this sheet. Then I want to show you a multi-sire. So let's go animals, multi-sire groups, view edit. On your right-hand side, you would give this animal, you will create a new one, and you will then give this multi-sire group a tag number so that you can select that group. That is where you'll either have to ask the society or create your own one, depending on what they would use. I'm just going to say multi-demo. Okay, but now you still need to add the sires to the group. You click at the bottom, and then you can either type in, if you know the code of the sire, let's say that one I want to add, and then I want to add another one. And okay. So these bulls are in this specific multi-sire group. If you want, you can also select them on your right-hand side and put them on a worksheet. But I'm just going to close, it will save it. Let's refresh and let's see if on our animal list, there it is, multi-demo, there's that multi-sire I created. Animal movements, if you want to move them from one camp to another, it's also something we want to do. Data entry, movements. Visual movement tool or HerdMASTER data entry screen. The visual movement tool you can use to, you can enter a Google Maps or a drone image of the farm and then map out the farm as well as the locations. But for now, I'm just going to use the normal data entry screen. First, do the right-hand side, make sure your data is correct. Which location do you want to use or to move them to? Vendor you will leave open. If you want to say, you put in any notes, let's say the grass burnt that we moving the animals off there. Or if you're moving them to a commercial camp and you don't want to use them as stud anymore, you can fade those animals as well and say that now they are commercial, and you select number 7. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use that worksheet, select them, move them to the right, and process. No warnings. And then if we go to that worksheet, there's that worksheet. Let's open one of the animals. It will show you that it's currently on Grootfontein 1. And if you go to movements, it will show you it was on location 1 and it's now in Grootfontein, and it also shows you how many days it was in that specific location. Then treatments. To set up treatments initially is quite a task. You need to set up treatments. I just want to show you these options. You need to set up the administration methods as well as the types. Usually the administration methods and the types are the same. That would be whether it's oral, is it a vaccine, is it a dip. Under types, you would use the same, and then under codes. So let's say you have a vaccine. Just want to open the code so I can show you. There's vaccine. So under vaccine, you're going to have 10 different vaccines. That is where the code comes in. You're going to have a specific code for whatever type of medicine that is. You would say it's chemical. You can say if it needs to be kept at a specific location, if it needs to be kept in the fridge, whatever the case may be. You would also say how much of that specific vaccine you have. In the setup, there's an option that says enable batch entry, which you would tick to show so that it enables HerdMaster when you administer a specific vaccine to an animal and it says you had 50 mils and you gave the animal 2 mils, it will update your batch. So you don't have to create batches, only if you want to, if you're going to use batches. So in every specific vaccine, let's say this 5-in-1 vaccine, I can go and enter a new batch in that 5-in-1. I just want to show you, if I go data entry procedure, that would be the other word for treatments. On 5-in-1, I'm going to administer that to them now. You'll see I have a batch here. You don't have to use batches, it's only if you want to. I'm not going to administer this now, it's just some background information. And then I want to show you the crush side recorder. Inside, I double click. This is where you sit at the crush with your computer. I don't have any devices or anything connected. I just want to show you what the screen looks like. So if everything is connected, sometimes the Bluetooth connection is terrible to get working. But once it's set up, it would remember the ports, especially if you set it up and there's other Bluetooth devices in the vicinity. It fights who needs to connect with what, and it takes forever to get it working. But once it's set up, it would remember those ports. So if all is working fine, where it says reader and scale, they will be green and you can say start. So when you scan the electronic ID, initially you won't have an electronic ID matched to a visual ID. It's going to bring up your animal list and you're going to find the animal who that visual ID belongs to. Then next time you scan that animal, if it sees the electronic ID, it's going to automatically bring up that animal. If you have a scale, bring up the weight here, or you just type in that weight. And then you can add any other traits or any other information that you want when you record this information. And then you will also at the bottom, you would also be able to see previous weights or traits or any other information. This then just takes out the work of manually typing. But as I said, you can also use the universal file import. Let me show you that. So you would go Utilities, Import, Universal File Import. I'm going to select one. You can create a new one. Yeah, I'm just going to edit one that I have. So you would need to go and find a file. Let's just see if there is one that I can use. So I'm just looking for a file. It's going to give me some columns. I'm just going to take that one. It's not going to be related to animals, but I just want to show you what the columns look like. It's not liking that file. It wants a CSV. Okay, there it's loading it now. So you'll see this information is not animal tags.
Janine, you just need to
Yeah.
share your other screen. We only see the HerdMaster, the homepage screen.
Sê weer, jy sien nie die HerdMaster?
Ons sien nie nou waar jy dit probeer intrek nie.
Kan jy hom nou sien?
Ek sien net die HerdMaster home screen, so probeer net die ander screen share. So gaan weer by share.
Okay, ek gaan net gaan my share screen dan afsit en hom dan weer oopmaak. Kan jy hom nou sien?
Hom nou, ja.
Okay. When you select the file to import, it's going to throw it out in columns. So you're going to go and have to match which column is which. So you would click on it and then you would say, this would be my animal data. It's going to be IDs. It will be tags. This one might be a weight, but when you do weights, it's going to want an observation code as well as a date. And you can't use the screen to only import tags. It's going to want at least a tag number, a date of birth, and a sex code. If your information is on Excel and it's a whole bunch of columns, the easiest is usually just to import the basics so that you have the animals on there, and then you can always add information. So you can use your spreadsheet and say, for now, I just want to import the tag, date of birth, and a sex code. And then next time you just match the tag and then you say, okay, let me import these weights and traits. With traits the same, it's going to want a trait date and a trait code and then a value for that specific trait. You will see if you click on these options, it's going to give you a whole bunch of information that you can import. Diary entries. You can also import contacts if you want. The only thing with using this option is that your cells need to look the same. You can't have one date that is month, day, year, and on the next one you start off with a year and you have decimals, the one is a full stop and the one is a comma. It's going to give you errors. If you import from a device, I know that Gallagher devices, their column doesn't only give a date, it gives a time as well. HerdMaster doesn't recognize the time, so it can't import that, but you just override the date and then you just enter the date off from there. When you create your own database, if you are with a society, breed plan societies, you can ask them for an extract of the data. They will then send you an email with a zip file with 4 or 5 folders in. Once you receive that, you can let me know. Then we create a database and import that information. It saves you the time of entering each and every animal one by one. If you're with Startbook, they can also send you an extract of your animals, and we can also import it. If it's nowhere and it's just on an Excel sheet, you can use this option. I do suggest to add a few animals manually. It just gives you a feel for the program and you have an idea of where to start. The easiest way to learn HerdMaster is actually sitting in front of it and starting to add animals. Once all your animals are on, then you would start moving animals, administering medicine, entering weights, entering traits, preg tests, matings. But initially you need to get the data on first. So usually that's the biggest exercise, is just getting all the information on and getting it on correctly. Don't be afraid to work with HerdMaster. If you know you're going to enter a whole bunch of data, make a backup. We do not keep any copies of anybody's information. If you've entered a whole lot of data and it's not sent to the society and something happens, you're going to have to redo that information if you don't have a backup. I would advise to, for the backup, put one on an external device as well, because the backups are kept under your My Documents. Then, sorry Zaan, kan jy my hoor?
Ons hoor jou. Jy sê
Ekskuus, hy het nou snaaks gemaak.
Okay, jy sê nog op die Universal File Import. So as jy op 'n ander skerm is, share hom net weer.
Okay. You should be able to see my main screen.
Yes.
So as the biggest task is getting your animals onto HerdMaster. The quickest way to learn it is to sit and work with it. You can look on our website. I just want to show you. If you go to the LRF website and you go to HerdMaster.
Sorry, you need to share that screen again.
Probeer weer. Sorry, I'm just trying to let you see the screen. It's not sharing. Okay, I think you can see it now. So on our website, you would go to HerdMaster, and then you would go to tip sheets. It's going to relay you to the Australian website. Our training manuals are made up out of these tip sheets. You can type in keywords, let's say matings, and it's only going to give you tip sheets relating to matings. Let's say I want to record a mating. Then it's going to give you a tip sheet that looks like this. It shows you exactly where to go in HerdMaster and what steps to follow. Let's say for adding a mating, as this one is now. The other option is we have a YouTube channel now that I have already opened. Should be able to see it now. Those tip sheets I've just converted to videos. Some videos are a bit longer than others, but you can also check the videos on here. And then the other option is to send me TeamViewer details so I can log on and assist you if you can't find where to add your animals or if you have some sort of error. I do have clients that's internet is not good enough for TeamViewer. Then they just send me WhatsApp messages or a WhatsApp video where they're stuck or images, whatever the case may be, and I then just reply to them via WhatsApp. And then the other option is just to give me a call. Usually the people prefer sending a WhatsApp as they have information to go and look back at again. You can send me an email to log on to TeamViewer. Just keep in mind that the emails sometimes do take time. You sending me an email at 10 for assistance and then I don't get it in time. I only get the email half an hour afterwards and then you've already gone. So it's better than to just give me a call or send me a WhatsApp. And that is it from my side. Are there any questions?
You can just raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask a question.
Just want to get back to that screen. HerdMaster, for those of you that doesn't have HerdMaster, there is a demo that you can download. It will be on the same website. Let me just share that screen. I'm not sure which screen you can see at the moment.
We can see the
So
website.
if you want, Askies?
Ja, ons sien nou die website, is reg?
Okay. So if you want to download the trial of HerdMaster, you can go to LRF, go to the HerdMaster option, then you click on Get HerdMaster and you say free trial. It's going to ask you to fill in this information. You will then get an email with the link in to download the program. If after a day or two you haven't received an email, it could be that your antivirus is blocking that email. So then just let me know, or then just switch off your antivirus for half an hour so that that email can just come through. The download does take some time depending on your internet speed. It will ask to do an update. Once you've opened HerdMaster, it will always ask for an update. It will automatically update. And then it will tell you that the update will install on the next startup. Sometimes the update, let's say you're a Wagyu breeder, it's not going to affect you at all because they did it for Brahmans or the other way around, depending on what they did in the update. Sometimes it's just small bugs and glitches that they fixed. When you just want to close the screen and want to show you the HerdMaster login screen, so that if you download the trial, it's going to ask you, when you download the trial and you open HerdMaster, you will see that it's got a preloaded demo database. You don't have to enter any username or passwords. You can just...
We can't see your screen at the moment.
So I'm now something just froze. I can't share anything. Try again. Seems it does not want to share my login screen.
Okay. Janine,
okay, let me make a snip and then I'll just share the snip with you. Let's see if that will work.
Janine, in the meantime, we have a question on if HerdMaster is available for Apple computers as well.
Yes, you can load it onto an Apple computer. I do have clients that use it like that, but you would need to create a parallel and load Windows. Usually, if they don't know how to do it, they just get an IT company to do that for them. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to do that because I'm not IT, but yes, you can use HerdMaster like that. You can also use it on a tablet or iPad. It just needs Windows 7.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions for now?
Sorry, it really doesn't want to share the screen at all.
François en Annelies, julle kan julle vraag vra.
Dis Annelies wat praat. Weet jy, ek het rekord gehou jare terug vandat ons begin het, voordat ons geregistreer het as brand, maar as dieselfde top beeste. Kan ek nou terugwerkend inligting invoer van byvoorbeeld die koeie se vorige kalvers en waar voer ek dit in? Sal dit beter wees op breedplan of op HerdMaster of is dit glad nie toelaatbaar nie?
Jy gaan dit in HerdMaster kan oplaai, Izaan, jy sal dalk beter weet oor breedplan. Dit gaan historiese data wees wat dan genootskap toe gestuur gaan word. Ek weet nie, Izaan, jy sal weet of gaan die genootskap dit aanvaar.
Ja, jy kan historiese data na die genootskap toe stuur. So, ja. Maar dit gaan dalk vir jou makliker wees om dit eers op HerdMaster te sit en alles uit te sorteer en dit dan na die genootskap toe te stuur. In watse formaat is die inligting tans?
Weet jy, op hierdie stadium nee, moet ek dit invoer want ek het dit in 'n boekie gedoen. Jy weet, ek het 'n boekies bygehou, maar al die inligting is volledig.
Okay. Ja, wat ek dan sal doen is ek sal dan terugwerkend kan jy data invoer. Jy kan dan die belangrikste gewees is om daai diere net eers geskep te kry en dan soos jy op inligting afkom net dit te gaan bysit. En dan wanneer jy seker is jy het alles op en alles is reg ten opsigte van gewigte en so aan, dan kan jy dit vir die genootskap stuur.
Want al die diere is geskep. Ek moet net vorige colors insit. Is dit ja, okay, ek verstaan wat jy
Jy
bedoel.
kan.
Okay.
So wanneer jy wat jy dan kan doen is jy kan 'n dier gaan laai, 'n gewone dier gaan laai en dan net onder dam gaan sê wie is die ma.
Goed.
Maak dan net seker dat die ma reeds gelaai is.
Ja, die maas is almal gelaai.
Okay. Jy kan dit so doen.
Okay, so jy sê eers ek moet dan eerder dit op HerdMaster doen en dit dan seker maak is reg en dan stuur hulle dit deur vir Breedman.
Ja, dan gaan jy dit Skus, wat 'n genootskap het jy gesê is jy Angus?
Angus, ja.
Dan stuur jy dit net vir die Angus genootskap. Talk about sending information to the society. When you send information to the society, please type them a message and ask them to confirm receipt of the email. They get a whole bunch of emails and people get frustrated because their data is not captured. They can't see their data, but somewhere the email got missing and they're just assuming that they got the email. It might be in their junk. What you can do is if you send information to the society and they say, yes, I got your email, give it a week or two, go and check if your details are on, if the data was captured. If not, you can always ask, but don't assume data is received and data is being loaded.
Baie dankie.
Dis reg. Sorry, can you see the screen now? Izaan, kan jy net my login screen sien?
Ons sien hom, ja.
Okay, what I wanted to show you is if you've downloaded the demo database, it's going to look like this. I can't click on this drop down now because it's a snip image. It doesn't want to share that screen. It would say demo database here. Username and password, it would be blank. You can just say, okay, and then it will take you into the demo database. It's Australian Angus, so it's not going to look totally the same as the South African one, but it works exactly the same. And then from here, you can also restore a database or create a new database. If you put your database on 2 devices, it is not going to sync. The data will not sync. So what I do on mine, you're not going to see on yours. You would have to make use of a backup and put it on a cloud and then so that the other guy can restore that database, unless you use the sync option, which is the more expensive one. Usually people that have more than one farm manager on more than one farm and everybody wants to see all the data at all times, they use the server option, but you need good internet. You don't need to be on internet to work with HerdMaster, but to sync, if you're on the server version, and to send data to the society, you need to be on the internet as well as to renew your license and do the updates. Any other questions? It doesn't seem like there's any other questions. If you do have any questions, you are welcome to WhatsApp me or send me an email. If you don't have HerdMaster, go and download the trial and work with it. Let me know if you get stuck. I'm happy to help. That is all from my side then.
Sorry, it's Andy.
Yes?
How do you load it onto an iPad?
You would need to create a parallel. You would need to get an IT guy to create a parallel for you. And then you would need to, they download Windows somehow onto this parallel, and then they.
I've got parallels on my Apple, on my Apple computer. I've got parallels, but I don't think they've got parallels for the iPad. So it's not going to work for an iPad. It will work for your Android products that have got Windows running on it, but for the iPad product, it's not going to work because there's no parallels for an iPad.
Okay, I was not familiar with that then. So there's no way you can get Windows onto an iPad?
No.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think then we can end the course now. So yeah, if you have any other questions, you can contact Janine by sending her WhatsApp or calling her. So yeah, thank you for attending our course today, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Sorry, Izan, I just want to say that the WhatsApp number would be the number that you use to register for the course. That would be the number that you can get hold of me on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our next course will be next Friday, the 29th of May, and that will be on selection indexes. So yeah, if you want to find out more on selection indexes, you can just register for that course as well. Thank you.
Sorry, Izan, I see these two questions, Zupo and Walter.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it's not a question for me. I just saying thank you for the presentation.
Yeah. No problem. Thank you.
And I was also just saying thank you to you.
Thank you. No problem. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye.